Be afraid for your life. The Bayou villains are coming. Jeremy Love's graphic novel Bayou morphs pop and folk culture into its antagonistic characters that shows the underlying current of racism in both Nolans and the real world. The real world that Bayou is situated in is one gripped with the deep tensions of the oppressive white supremacy versus the desperate black struggle for freedom. The parallel world of Nolans that the main character Lee finds herself in is ruled by the boss man, who symbolizes the oppression of blacks against the common creatures of Nolans. As the ringleader amongst the criminals of Nolans, the boss man remains a mysterious figure, lurking in the shadows as his henchmen do his bidding. It has been suggested, since viewers are not able to get a full glimpse of his face, that the boss man could possibly be General Boggs, who appears as a Confederate general. The mindset of those defending the Confederacy were grounded upon the beliefs that slavery was not only acceptable, but necessary to keep the natural Southern way of life. With such beliefs about blacks rooted into the society that Lee currently lives in, the age of the Great Depression, it comes as no surprise that General Boggs could represent Boss Man, with his supreme reign over all New Orleans, just as how the beliefs of racism and white superiority ran rampant and dominated during the Great Depression era as well. As the volumes continue to develop, readers can only wait in anticipation to find out more concerning the Boss Man. The character Stagger Lee would have been just as familiar to a girl like Lee Wagstaff as the character Brer Rabbit. Stagger Lee's real name was Lee Shelton, known more commonly as Stag Lee, born in March of 1865. Stag Lee was an African-American man who lived in St. Louis, Missouri, as a carriage driver and pimp. On Christmas night of 1895, Stag Lee murdered his own friend, William Lyons, over a drunken insult. Witnesses say Stag Lee stabbed his friend in the abdomen and walked away calmly while Lyons bled to death on the floor. Stag Lee was convicted of murder, and his cold-hearted actions were immortalized in folk songs throughout the South, especially around the Mississippi River where our text is set. The song would have been known by virtually every African American in the South during the early to mid-1900s, including a girl like Lee Wagstaff. In the years since, multitudes of artists have recorded versions of Stagger Lee's murder ballad, including Elvis Presley, Neil Diamond, Ike and Tina Turner, The Clash, Bob Dylan, The Grateful Dead, and the Black Keys. In literature, Stagger Lee has become an archetype for a slick, cold-blooded, and authority-shirking black villain. It's no wonder Jeremy Love included him in Bayou as the man willing to go to any lengths, work for any boss, and hunt down any target, simply because he loves to kill. Cotton-Eyed Joe is the famous American country song known throughout the United States and Canada, but is now typically associated with the American South. The term cotton-eyed refers to the Southern phrase, taking a liking to, signifying that this Joe figure the song refers to was a man that wooed various girls despite his less than attractive looks. It has been said that Cotton-Eyed Joe was notorious for taking advantage of women. In the graphic novel, Cotton-Eyed Joe is the son of the boss man, appearing as a heinous giant who snatches up Lily and eats her in one gulp. The Jim Crow laws were enforced from 1876 to 1965 within the U.S. They were state and local laws created to further oppress the blacks from any possible attempts towards equality that they sought to gain. The laws approved racial segregation in all public facilities in the southern states of the former Confederacy, with the separate but equal status for African Americans that began in the 1890s. In addition, although blacks were technically given the right to vote during the era, the Jim Crow laws created ridiculous requirements that chained the black people down from having any realistic opportunity to vote, resulting in the effects of white superiority to become even more heightened. In the book, the Jim Crows do the boss man's bidding as well, as they show no mercy towards anyone that the boss man decides to kill. It is apparent that they enjoy killing, since even a white man like Cotton-Eyed Joe was also brutally killed by them, even though the reason was because Cotton-Eyed Joe had eaten Lily. Although the law in the real world was to oppress black people, the crows in Bayou seem to hold no preference. Gullywogs in Bayou are large, blue, bug-like creatures who live in the waters of the bayou. They prey on seemingly anything that comes into the water, one of those being Lee. The first time we see a gollywog is when Lee very first enters Nolans. It grabs her ankle and pulls her down. Luckily, Bayou is there to save her. The second time, it is involved in a plot to destroy the building she's in and take her. Lee manages to escape by climbing a tree whose branch breaks, killing the gollywog. In Bayou, Golliwogs are nefarious creatures who care nothing about the world around them. They are the most animalistic of the creatures in Bayou, a symbol for the racism that is bringing Lee down on his journey. The way they are depicted is clearly indicative of the racism prevalent throughout this time period. With the big red lips, large ears, monkey-like nose, and ratty hair, they are an obvious depiction of a stereotypical image of African American appearances. Gollywog was created as a character for Florence Kate Upton's books in 1895. Upton failed to copyright Gollywog, so a series of toys and other Gollywog paraphernalia hit the market. They were a hit. The Gollywog doll was a black ragdoll-like toy with similar features to the facial features of the Gollywog in Bayou. This doll became a symbol of racism, which was not surprising. It was a perfect symbol for love to use in Bayou. Like Bayou's Gollywog, Gollywogs are a racist object that lives beneath our general perception. They are little talked about and likely generally forgotten, but still creep up and cause pain, just as the Gollywogs from Bayou who creep up and cause pain for Lee. This racist version of the Gollywog is what is referred to in Bayou. It is a symbol for the racism that holds Lee back. But off on Earth, there still exists the white people. Nolans is a strange world, but it takes many cues from reality, one of these being racism. The villains in Nolans help to reveal various aspects of the racism in Southern culture at the time, while the white people are that culture. They are present at the beginning of Bayou in the first volume. Lee's entire journey is caused by white people and ultimately racism. This journey began with Lily being eaten by Cotton Eye Joe. Lily and Lee are too young to understand the complexities of race relations in the South at the time, but Lee's father isn't and is taken to jail suspected of raping young Lily. The brutality of the white people and the things they say reveal how little they respect Lee and her father. They beat Lee, a mere child, with the butt of a gun and wish to hang Lee's father after having almost no evidence. Nolans is similar. Most of the villains we have discussed from Nolans are African Americans, but they are all ruled by Bossman, who is an obvious allusion to a slave master. He has people whipped, he has people killed, he does what he wants. Stagger Lee is a simple mercenary who kills to kill. Gollywog and the Jim Crows are symbols for the racism in the South. Jim Crows are a racism that Bossman controls, much like the white people control the Jim Crow laws. Finally, Cotton Eye Joe is a white man, but he got in the way of what the white men in charge wanted, which again is similar to Earth because even white people were hanged. The villains of Nolans are simply an extension of the hatred for people of color by the general white people of the South. Like the narrative shifts between the real world, in which Lee and her father live, and Nolans, where the fantastical creatures dwell, so shifts our medium of reference. Our original text by Jeremy Love is given in the form of a graphic novel, combining visual and written elements to produce haunting villains on the page. However, we have taken this graphic novel and animated it. The animation takes away some of the imagination aspects of the novel. However, it works better as a video format. Minutes of plain images and narration would become dull, but the animation adds an element of interest to the video. The shift of medium gives the characters a more defined personality since we can now see how they move and interact with each other. It is neither superior nor inferior to the original version, but simply another view of the characters and a means by which we may reveal a different perspective on the novel. Now we leave you with this new perspective. We've brought your nightmares to life with motion and sound. Wave goodbye to the monsters of Bayou, everyone.